It's just support, Tom!
Welcome everybody to Card Art in Sunnyvale, California. My name is Optimus Tom, and joining me for Pioneer Tuesday, 3 rounds in paper, it's Frenchie. How's it going?
You know, going pretty well. We got a pretty fun, smaller turnout tonight, but we got some spice as per usual. And yeah, speaking of the spice, we already have some folks going with a couple of blue-based Kindred decks. So let's head straight into the game.
You got it. It's the battle of the blue Kindred tempo style decks. We got Fluid over on the left on Dimir Ninjas, and then Willow over on the right sporting the Azorius Spirits.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Willow's like the third Rakdos mid-range pilot that I know who is trying out spirits. Apparently, I guess they just are fed up so much with the archetype that they have to see why it's so abysmal for them to play against.
Well, I guess that makes sense. And it looks like over on Fluid side, we're going to immediately see a couple of ninjas coming out here. This one, I believe, is Satoru.
Yeah, Satoru the Infiltrator. This one, I mean, it's one of Aspiring Spike's favorite cards to brew around in Modern, but it does so much for the Ninjas deck.
Yeah, I'm interested to kind of see what Satoru can do in Pioneer when you are more on the fair side of things. You're not casting free spells after all. So Satoru, just a 2/3 Menace for 2. Is going to be a very powerful addition to this Ninjas package, though, because, well, Menace is very good, especially when you want to do ninjutsu things into play.
Yep, and we're seeing one of the very cute interactions that Satoru does have. Because Ornithopter is a 0-cost creature, when you cast it, you draw a card.
Nice.
Doesn't matter.
So is Ornithopter this deck's favorite ninja?
I mean, you might need a Masquid Nexus out for it to be a ninja, but yes, it's probably the deck's favorite creature, I will say. Looks like we also have a Silver Fur, I forget.
I think it's Silver Fur Mentor or Silver Fur Master, I forget, but it's the +1/+1 to rogues and ninjas, if I recall correctly, right? It's Master Splinter. But Master Splinter, unfortunately, is going to wind up meeting a... wow, I always forget the name of this guy.
Spell Queller.
Spell Queller,
Good old
yes.
Spell Queller. This is also the bane of my existence as a good old devotion player. Always eats up all of my trolls and all that fun stuff. Gosh, what a card. Exile any spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. Of course, when it dies, you know, you just get to recast it for free, but realistically, you're going to have counter magic and everything to back it up. So, you know, it's basically a hard counter with a flying 2/3 body that just does a lot of work.
This is like the quintessential tempo play since, I don't know, 2016 or something. Yeah. This thing has been a staple in Modern Spirits ever since it was released, pretty much.
Yeah, it is quite a card, I will say. And all right, looks like our players are they're just trying to figure things out as the lines just are coming on up. You know, it's, I don't know, 18 to 20, not much really for either side. Both folks are just trying to figure out who wants to deal the first blow of resources.
This is sort of what happens, I guess, when you have two tempo decks staring each other down. It's like whoever makes the first move is going to be the one that potentially loses the tempo. So you get these awkward situations where you wind up seeing people trying to play sorcery speed or trying to play around things that they could think their opponent has in hand. We just see Curious Obsession, very powerful, potent part of this Spirits package, going to be attached to Spell Queller, pumping this thing up to a 3/4, and that's going to have to swing, otherwise it'll fall off. But if it connects, we're going to draw a card, and we see Fluid doesn't really want that card advantage in this sort of tempo mirror style and has to sacrifice the artifact ninja Ornithopter.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, again, blue decks, tempo decks, they're all about card advantage and just keeping one step ahead of your opponent. So doing anything you can to prevent your opponent from getting that step ahead is going to be very impactful towards your game plan, finishing off your opponent. And looks like we just have a Skyclave Apparition entering the battlefield.
That's
super clean, super easy. Just get rid of that Satoru, exile it forever. If it dies, you get a 2/2, but honestly, a 2/2's nowhere near as impactful as this very incredible card draw engine that is Satoru.
Yeah, and the fact that this, even if you wind up making the 2/2, it doesn't have menace. It's a lot easier to block and therefore a lot easier to prevent any sort of ninjutsu shenanigans from coming in. I'm really interested to see if Pluid, using the Ninjas deck, has been able to sort of upgrade to the newer version of Kaito as well. I know I've seen that being played in Standard, where there's a lot of flyers and everything.
Yep.
But most notably, the Ninjas in Pioneer, not necessarily known for flying, I guess, unless you're that Ornithopter. But the menace, the evasion that they do wind up having could wind up being extremely impactful to get their own engine online. Although, speaking of flyers, I do see a guest ninja in Pluid's hand here, a Mockingbird.
I think we're going to copy the Skyclave apparition to try and take out the Spell Queller to be able to get our Silver Fur back.
That's sick. That's such a cool interaction.
Nope. It looks like we're actually just going after our opponent's Skyclave here. So, I mean, that gets us a 2/2 back, which isn't bad. Either way, we're going to try and get a creature out of this interaction. Oh, okay, yeah. Pluid looks like he was just motioning that he would like to copy the Skyclave, but will get his Silver Fur back. And yeah, so now we have a flying Skyclave apparition as well as the Silver Fur. So unfortunately, there isn't going to be much synergy here. But Mockingbird, when it copies ninjas, I think is actually the deck's favorite ninja.
Oh, definitely. So right now it's a spirit, so it's a bird bard spirit. However, like you mentioned, this is just a big swing again in tempo, which is something that is going to be probably coming out of my mouth more times than you would like to hear in this specific matchup, but it's really what winds up happening when you have these two different styles of decks kind of combating against one another. Of course, the Mockingbird also has the really great synergy of the fact that it is 1 and X, so you can just tap 3 and it copies a 3-mana permanent, or sorry, a 3-mana creature, which is what we saw Pluid optimizing here. And then after that, you wind up just kind of turning the board state from 2-0 to 2-1 in the opposite fashion, and then a quick passing of the turn with just that 1 mana still available for a potential removal spell.
Or a Spell Pierce, who knows? One interesting thing I like about this too with the Mockingbird is it's still an evasive flyer, and like that 3/3 Willow's gonna get is gonna be pennies compared to any ninja that you're gonna ninjutsu out with the Mockingbird copy, and then you bring the Mockingbird back, and maybe this time you decide to just make it a Silver Fur.
Oh, that's such good synergy.
Frickin' love this card so much in this deck. It just does so it does so many little things. Anytime I've been playing a blue deck with any of these really good small creatures that do a lot, I just throw Mockingbird in just because it does so much to copy lords, to copy major card draw engines, just do kind of everything. And honestly, even having the utility to copy your opponent's creatures. I've seen a Flying Shieldred.
That's the scary notion right there. That's something I don't think anybody wants to see on the opposite side of the table.
Oh, goodness, no.
All right, so we have what is probably the scariest thing the Spirits deck can do from Willow's side, which is passing with a lot of available mana open. So now the ball is in Pluid's court. Obviously, the Silver Fur Mentor is going to be a 2/2 going up against the 2/2 Skyclave apparition. Getting back a illusion token is going to be the same as getting back to Satoru, and then losing your Lord is something that Pluid kind of has to consider here. Or are we going to wind up seeing potentially a Mockingbird swinging in? Remember, it is a 2/2 Skyclave apparition that flies, but so do most spirits from Willow's side, and Pluid really has to now be considering, are there flying blockers that can come in at flash speed? Is this just counter magic? What do I have to consider playing into?
Yeah, I think at this point, it really is the good old stare down. Like, no one wants to react first. Everyone wants to be the one reacting, so...
No, it's like Pluid actually just passed the turn, too. Didn't even want to make a move. It was like, you know what? I'll play my land, tap, and go.
Yeah, although, interestingly enough, I think of everything going on, Willow might be in the better position because she does have a creature land. I think that's kind of just probably the main mirror breaker right now, outside of course, Pluid having 2 creatures in play.
I can't tell if that last land that Pluid wound up playing was some sort of verge, or if that was a reef of their own. So then there may be a 4/4 shark on the opposite side for Pluid as well. And that would be something you could just invest your mana into and potentially not have to worry about really trading with a lot of things that Willow can flash in at instant speed.
Yeah. Looks like we might be making a move here. Maybe not. Who knows? Yeah, our players are like kind of, there is a little bit of thinking aloud too, just like kind of is it this is the, and just like counting mana and all that. It's lots of very small calculated plays here because that is what tempo deck does have. If you miscalculate once, you're probably dead.
Well, looks like we're going to have Mockingbird number 2 as the play here from Pluid, looking to copy that Skyclave apparition again. So Skyclave or Skyclave, even then we have 2 flying Skyclaves on the side of Pluid, and they're going to get spellquelled, it looks like. But this might be a battle on the stack as Pluid picks up their hand and... never mind.
Well, it might also just die very quickly. Who knows? Because if the... Oh, just kidding. We decided to pass the turn. But yeah, now we do have a Mockingbird kind of unlocked. Unfortunately, since no mana was spent to cast it, it'll come in and can't really copy anything unless we have an Ornithopter in play, which I don't think we'd want to copy that.
No, I think we might want to keep the 1/1 flyer at that point.
And here's probably the biggest pickup for the Spirits deck as of late. It's Sheltered by Ghosts. This standard All-Star has been doing a lot of work in the Azorius enchantment deck, and yeah, as we can see here, it is yet another powerful aura that you're able to equip to your creatures. Instead of card advantage for yourself, it's card disadvantage for your opponent by taking one of their creatures, as well as giving you some lifelink and a little bit of extra power, and very, very importantly, Ward 2.
Yeah, I learned the hard way last night. I was drafting with a friend on Arena, and we both learned the hard way that Sheltered by Ghost targets non-land permanents. So there were enchantments and rooms and all sorts of removal spells that were just getting absolutely just lambasted by the fact that this would come down and remove it. And most importantly, in a race between decks that want to have control of the flow of the board state, you now have +1/+0 and lifelink on your flying giant stack of things exiled underneath it creature. That is just going to completely flip the life totals around and then also perform great offense and defense. Now, if Pluid ever wants to try to attack, you have to consider that extra 3 lifelink damage.
Yes. Also, for what it's worth, I'm kind of laughing at the stack of 4 cards.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen some. Okay, like to be honest, Ikoria happened during the pandemic, so I didn't actually see this in paper. But this is reminding me of the piles on Arena we saw when it came to mutate.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I'm wondering if we're gonna end up seeing now the the spell queller then getting eaten by yet another Mockingbird copy of a Skyclave and just all of that. Yeah, there's a lot of funky things, but it looks like Pluid's just passing the turn again.
Yeah, I think I did get a chance to look at Pluid's hand. It looks like it's just a pair of lands in there. And then drawing into that board meant that there was a 3rd top deck land from Pluid. Most important to note, though, that Reef Shark does not fly. It's just a 4/4 Death Touch that melts. So that's not going to be something that can block this Spell Queller's flying lifelink once again, swinging in at Pluid's life total, swapping it to 23 for Willow and potentially 14 down here for Pluid.
Yeah. And, oh boy, yeah, we're just deciding to scoop it up. Too many lands, not enough spells, and frankly, there were more of Pluid's cards on Willow's side of the battlefield than on his own.
Yeah, that does tend to happen, unfortunately. And although it may look like a bit of a premature concession just because of how high the life totals were, Frenchie, I know that you can kind of speak from experience. When a deck that is played like this Azorius Spirits deck gets you to that point where you stumble once or twice and it has the board advantage and can just pass with open mana like it's playing the control game, it's basically lights out.
Yeah, you kind of need a bit of action at every point. Again, that's one of the reasons why Spirits has always tried to shove in Curious Obsession, and now, what is it, Enduring Curiosity too has now been a big one in the deck, just because it's another flash threat. You get your card advantage because it does have that very powerful Coastal Piracy type effect. I don't know what other forms of card advantage Ninjas is running at the moment, but I know that's going to be one of the big things. Obviously, the Ninjas themselves are card advantage because when you're putting them in, you're also bringing back a card to hand. So you're saying card neutral and getting some sort of really big splashy effect when you connect. But still, you're not getting additional different resources. It's just the same resource you can use over and over again, which if that resource is, just a creature, such as like an Ornithopter, it's not really where you want to be when your opponent's just drawing removal spell after removal spell.
And this is different than like the Dimir Rogue style of kind of tempo deck. Because as you mentioned, this might be just a little bit more permanent based in the advantage it's getting. Whereas, Dimir Rogue, you wind up having some of those more cantrippy type spells as well.
Yeah, and you also have the marquee Dimir tempo spell that is Drown in the Lock, which Dimir Ninjas unfortunately can't play nearly as effectively. And yeah, the flexibility of that spell does let it really go toe-to-toe with spirits. I know that this Ninjas deck is actually one of the brews that our main man Garrett has been working on. So, and Pluid's doing him a favor by giving it a quick test run. So definitely still work in progress, but seeing some interesting play patterns. Again, that Mockingbird is just such a fun card in the deck.
And if that second Mockingbird resolved, we would have basically seen an army of 2 and 3 power things on Pluid's side of the battlefield, completely flipping the script over on the Azorius Spirit side. Now, from Willow's point of view, the Azorius Spirit deck, as you mentioned, has a couple of upgrades, has the Enduring Curiosity, has a couple new cards like that, Sheltered by Ghosts. Is there anything from the sideboard in this sort of like this advantage tempo matters? I keep saying the T word, so I'm trying to think of other things. In this game where the pace of play and the board state advantage is gained by having more cards in hand and interacting on the stack, what's Willow bringing in from sideboard?
Probably, it's probably good old wedding announcement. It breaks every single stall that you can imagine because it just gives you extra bodies, it lets you draw some cards, and frankly, in this kind of a matchup too, the backside that just gives you an Anthem effect is also really impactful because your creatures are just going to be bigger. I also know that Willow is running One Ring Emperor in some capacity, possibly even in the main deck, to kind of pivot a little bit more towards a flash style game plan as opposed to just strictly spirits. So I think those two cards are going to be really big here, especially post board. On Pluid's side, I think it's really just going to be hopefully some hand hate coming in. I'm hoping to see some thought seizes and some duresses to be able to get the information in Willow's hand so you can play around a lot more effectively. I think that's the biggest advantage of playing black, is getting that additional hand hate.
Yeah, especially with Pluid going to be on the play this time around, a lot of that proactive hand disruption as opposed to the reactive counter magic that we could normally see from some of these Dimir lists may be pretty powerful. But expect, Mystical Dispute, if it's in the sideboard, comes in here, considering the Azorius Spirits deck is like 60 to 65% blue. Although, like you mentioned, post sideboard, we did talk about a lot of white cards that could be coming in for Willow.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I think, okay, yeah. I
was like,
realized I might have picked up 8 cards on accident, but I know which one was on top.
Just because you're playing a Ninja's deck doesn't mean you can try to ninjutsu the top of your deck into your hand.
Yeah, and we always know that this is just an accident here. Folks are just trying to play quickly, and sometimes the camera does offer a bit of nervousness, and yeah, this is one of the best starts that you can get out of the Ninjas deck. 2 flyers in play right away on turn 1. Yes, please. So for those who don't know, obviously the first one was Ornithopter, good old classic Ornithopter. This one, Thousand Face Shadow, it has a much more expensive ninjutsu cost, but it's because its ninjutsu lets you make a copy of another attacking creature when it enters. Yeah, which is kind of busted.
It's just basically a clone effect, and most notably, the copy doesn't go away after it's done attacking. So you need to have, like, we all know what happens with Fable of the Mirror Breaker at 3 mana, and that one goes away at the end of turn. Yeah. So when you can ninjutsu something in for 4, it's pretty powerful. And wow.
This is spicy. We got 2, I believe this is Moon Circuit Hacker?
Oh, yeah. This is,
This one, it lets you draw a card on combat damage when you ninjutsu it in, but then afterwards it's a looting effect. So you can see tons of card advantage here, and honestly, I like that it's just, at the end of the day, it's card selection following it up after the initial ninjutsu, so you're still doing some really good stuff here.
Yeah, not to mention that this is a 2-power creature now instead of the 1-power creatures that were previously on the battlefield, so it's a swing for 4 on turn 2 instead of just a swing for 2. Also, didn't even notice that Moon Circuit Hacker is an enchantment creature as well, so just all sorts of card types and everything. As you mentioned, the filtering and everything can wind up coming in from this, and this is what you were talking about when we were discussing sideboards, how this Dimir Ninjas deck really relies on its creatures and its permanents to gain its card advantage.
Yeah, you can't just you can't really just have no creatures in play. Ninjas really needs the creatures in play. You're also just kind of doing nothing, or you're just casting. It looks like Pluid is in a bit of a bind here, kind of thinking through things. Fortunately, I do at least see a mana source that taps for black, which I think was the biggest worry, was seeing 2 clear water pathways coming in and no murk water pathway. I was like, oh boy, I hope we have some black sources in hand.
And so I see a silver fermentor in hand as well. We did hear Pluid kind of saying, what does spirits have here that can block me? Kind of agonizing over a potential block here. Without playing that black mana source, however, we're not going to flash in the Ninja Lord. Instead, just going to be a swing for 4. Now we get double loot effects, and there's those Thoughtseizes being brought in.
Oh yeah, and this is exactly what we want to be seeing, because now we'll be able to play that black source. Second Thoughtseize, unfortunately, we'll only be able to cast 1 this turn. So if there's 2 really spicy things on Willow's side, we're gonna have to wait another turn to get rid of it.
Oh,
and
pitched a land. All right.
Yeah, I
we
think that was.
Lands.
Yeah, it looks like we had an underground, second underground river in hand, or some sort of other black source. So we're just gonna be able to. It looks like that was a watery grave. Yeah. So yeah, we're coming in, getting a Thoughtseize, going down to 16, and let's see what Willow's working with. Or
potentially going down to 16. We could wind up having a counterspell here, but it would be very interesting to see a counterspell at this point in time, because I'm thinking counter magic main board, Geistlight Snare was one that's kind of fallen out of popularity. I'm trying to think like 3 steps ahead is not castable right now.
But no more lies.
No more lies. Phantom Interference.
That's the no more lies. So this card will be exiled as well, which doesn't really matter in this case for Pluid, but you know, nice little upside. And one of the other recent additions that Azorius Spirits has gotten, because of just how many impactful spells have been printed in these colors. But we're still honestly in good shape for Pluid.
So Willow just plays a land, gets 2 of each potential color available to her side of the Azorius Spirits matchup, and passes the turn. And now we're seeing Pluid, second Thoughtseize in hand, can do some interesting things here. If there's a second black mana source, we can Thoughtseize, hold up our ninjutsu for Silver for a Master. We can do a bunch of different kinds of things here. We can ninjutsu that in on the Ornithopter, but it looks like we're just going to start off with the Thoughtseize and try to make Willow react.
Yeah. Always pushing the buttons of your opponent, and that's where, again, where the black cards really come in, is you're able to really poke and prod and give the Azorius player a much harder decision of what to counter, when to let you in, when to keep you out, all of those things. And I mean, there's a lot of impactful spells in Willow's hand. I saw a Sheltered by Ghost. Unfortunately, doesn't really have a creature to put it on, but
no shelter, just ghost.
Yeah, just some ghosts right now. But I would assume there might actually be a Spell Queller coming in. That's just gonna copy that's gonna take the Thoughtseize. Ooh, Containment Priest. Okay, this is spicy, because this is some anti-ninja tech here.
This so the Containment Priest, as we may all know, stops things like creativity. It stops tokens from entering, but I'm sorry, it stops creativity. It stops non-tokens from entering, and then of course that means with ninjutsu, it's going to stop a ninjutsu creature from replacing your attacking creature, which is huge.
Yeah. I mean, you still have to have the cost of returning creature to hand, but the creature that comes in just gets exiled because it wasn't cast. It's an activated ability. It does a lot here and is pretty cool. Getting rid of the looks like that was a rattle chains. Yeah, making sure that our permanents can't become hexproof, so we can still interact. And it looks like we have at least 2 Sheltered by Ghost, and I think I saw a Geistlight Snare from Willow.
Oh, it looks like Pluid may have made a bit of an awkward draw discard last turn, not having the black mana available to just sorcery speed play the Silver Fermentor here after that Thoughtseize. But with this swing in for 4, there are going to be no blocks, as Willow doesn't want that denying of the ninjutsu clause to go away. We're going to have 2 loots here. The first one finds a Fatal Push, not black mana. If we have black mana, we Fatal Push here. We strand Willow with just containment with nothing and double Sheltered by Ghosts in hand. And unfortunately, it looks like that Pluid just doesn't find it.
Yeah, it's kind of a big blowout, especially since if Willow does decide to kind of go all in here with a double Sheltered by Ghost, it's going to have Ward 2 twice, and we're not going to have the mana to be able to kill it, unfortunately. So it's going to be hanging out. It's going to be a 4/2 lifelinker. We're just going to need to put something in to chump it at best.
Now, Willow also, it looks like there's a Geistlight Snare in hand, so could just pass the turn here and have like good old Mana Leak for 1 mana available, and with only 3 lands in
I think it's
play.
only going to be 2 just because we need the spirit. And
Oh, right.
yeah.
The Containment Priest is not a spirit. It is a human, so it will still only be 2 mana. So this could potentially just trigger playing the second Shelter by Ghost instead, which Willow is heavily considering right now.
Yeah, but I mean, at least the Geistlight Snare is 2 mana. It is also face up, and Pluid only has the 3 lands, so yeah, it's just, we're kind of in an interesting spot here. We have the 3/2 coming in, going to be at least gaining some life for Willow, unless there is some sort of bounce spell, but I doubt with the, you know, the Ward 2, there's going to be much that Pluid can do here.
All right, big draw, not a land, unfortunately.
But I think that was a Cryptic Coat. That's a good way to at least stay on parity for damage, just because that unblockable, the unblockable token is going to be quite a bit. However, again, face-up counter magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really the best thing to be seeing.
This would be pretty solid. Now, because Willow did attack and decide to start racing with the life-linking Containment Priest, we are going to wind up getting Pluid another draw in Silver for Mentor, so no land again. That draw discard of putting 2 lands away on turn 2, really coming back to bite Pluid here.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely made my fair share of greedy draw discard or discard draw of a land and then not finding it for a while. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but it looks like we are attempting to get rid of the Containment Priest here, knowing that there is the counterspell in hand. We are paying for the ward, but then the counterspell does come out.
All right, so if Pluid has second removal spell, potentially second Fatal Push, which I don't think he has right now, this is representing, okay, I used 1, I got that face-up counterspell out of your hand, I'm now going to potentially have another one, so now Willow may have to rethink just slamming the second Shelter by Ghost and then go into town that way.
I mean, the second Shelter by Ghost gives it Ward 2 twice, so Ward 4 when you only have 3 mana total is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's also a thing to consider, yeah. Stacking ward costs, probably pretty solid.
Yeah, this is one of those instances where I really like seeing good old Shield's Edict.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to get around the ward cost.
Oh, baby.
Big tempo play there, but I don't know if Pluid's list has it. Again, we really want to keep a lot of permanence as our interaction in the Ninjas deck, so probably going to have as little spells as we need, and we do have second Shelter by Ghost taking the Moon Circuit Hacker.
All right, why don't we just play Plague Crafter then? That'll work, right? That's a permanent, and now we have another Mutate stack over here. So we wind up having +2/+0, Ward 4 on a 2/2 that is exiling 2 2/1s, and we do wind up finding an extra land, but I believe that's that is an island coming down.
Yeah, so more blue sources, and we've unfortunately not been able to hold up that Spell Pierce this entire time. That's a bit rough. Yeah, and we're turned off of ninjutsu right now, so it's a bit interesting. And one thing to note too, that now that I'm actually kind of looking at it and how everything works out, the cloak card is not going to come into play because it is a non-token technically, and it's hopefully our players are kind of like going through it and trying to figure it out, but unfortunately it's a non-token creature and it's entering without being cast.
So what you're saying here is this Cryptic Coat should not be having this 2/2 underneath it.
Yeah, we might. Do we maybe want to do a quick judge call run to make sure that they are aware? It looks like we are, so I'm going to take it over for a few moments here while Tom does confirm this interaction with our players, bringing over a judge. But yeah, the Containment Priest is such a thorn in the side for this Ninjas deck. It does so much because, especially with this Cryptic Coat, like, you're not actually able to bring in non-tokens, and yeah, cloak creatures are technically non-token. It looks like everyone's really trying to figure it out, and yeah, we are getting a quick second read from the Containment Priest to make sure we very much understand how this card works. I mean, this is a really weird interaction. I don't blame Pluid for not knowing. I would hope our players are going to be pretty chill about it, maybe kind of like, let us do a takes backs here, just because, yeah, interesting interaction. Looks like Judge Call's going well, Tom.
Judge Call is going the way that you thought it was.
Yep.
So since this creature would enter, it would be exiled. So instead, it looks like Willow is going to just say, okay, we haven't seen it. We'll just... It looks like they're debating if they want to allow Pluid to take that back or not.
Yeah.
It's basically the big thing. Since it is just local Pioneer Knight, it's not super competitive comp REL. This isn't super Pioneer with extra credit and everything on the line. It does look like, though, that the result of everything is going to be the card is exiled, as you mentioned, and the Cryptic Coat will stay on the battlefields. And unfortunately, Cryptic Coat is in equipment without an equip cost.
Yeah, we're in a really awkward spot here. Definitely everything going on with the, again, good old tempo of this game. That Containment Priest has done all the work. We did not need a single spirit on this side. It feels much more like an Azorius Flash deck than an Azorius Spirits deck right now. It's just doing a lot to really keep Pluid off balance. The ninjas can never really do what they want to do, and I think right now we're just kind of bought into just playing a blocker here and trying to hold up some interaction for the stack, because, I mean, we need one more land to even attempt to kill the Containment Priest with that Fatal Push.
Yeah, and it looks like right here we do have two potential blockers. So we have the ninja we played earlier, the 1001, and we wind up having a Silver Fermentor in hand. So if we're able to bait out some sort of counter magic here from Willow's side, we will potentially be able to slam the larger creature, which can play blocking duty for now. But Pluid is still at 10, so this is only a 3-turn clock coming down from this Containment Priest. It's not life or death quite yet, so we are going to wind up seeing both of the creatures being thrown down here. Willow, just 2 cards in hand, says that's okay. So Willow may just be having okay, there are a lot of things that Willow could have that would probably be bad for Pluid in this situation, such as Shacklegeist being able to help come in and start tapping things down if just a Spectral Sailor follows it up or something, and then being able to force in that extra damage. But maybe it's also just that Wandering Emperor, like you mentioned, coming in from the sideboard.
Yeah, who knows what the last few cards could be. But yeah, both players are running on very few resources at this point. 2 cards in hand for Pluid, and Willow just drew her 3rd card. Interesting attacks here. I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of instant speed removal for the Silver Fur, because right now, both creatures are trading.
And Pluid's
just double checking, seeing if it's a trap, and it looks like he is sniffing things out, seeing that it is very likely some sort of weird trap.
So, I mean, this right here, what would it scream to you? Because it screams to me Wandering Emperor, +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, +1/+1 counter and first strike.
Oh, you know what it is? There's an Odawara hanging out in Willow's hand.
That's spicy. Being able to bounce the Silver Fur and then just taking out the Thousand Face. Yeah, it looks like we are blocking, at least with the Silver Fur, so here we're definitely going to be Odawaring the Silver Fur, and we're not going to get completely blown out, just the Lord getting bounced back to hand rather than if we had blocked with the Thousand Face. So smart on Pluid to kind of sniff that out and make sure we are making the correct block.
No, we have a Mockingbird off the top from Pluid, which unfortunately won't do a ton here. It can copy a Silver Fermentor if we want to play both of them this turn.
I'm kind of inclined to be holding on to it until Willow tries to remove one of Pluid's options, because then now you have a removal spell for what what Willow decides to do, and that removal spell could end up getting a lot done. But we're just playing the Silver Fermentor again, or no, we're playing. No, yeah, same one. It was just bounced. It wasn't destroyed.
Now, the Silver Fermentor says other ninjas and rogues get +1/+1, so I would have kind of been tempted here if I was Pluid to just slam that down and have a blocker that would trade even with a +1/+1 shenanigan.
Oh, and I think I see Kaido. Finally, the big guy is making an appearance. I have a feeling that thousand face shadow or whatever that 1-mana ninja is going to be going in to try and connect for some combat damage, and this is going to be a big swing if Kaido does enter play. Oh, however, this would all be fine and dandy if, you know, we had a Containment Priest not on the battlefield.
Well, Containment Priest is only creature.
Unfortunately, Kaido enters.
Oh, he enters as a creature. Oh no! He has Planeswalker Ninjutsu, but he's a creature. That's usually not something.
No, we were both like, oh, he's a planeswalker. No, he's a creature when he enters. It's super awkward.
Now, we're also assuming that this is Kaito Bane of Nightmares and not Kaito Shizuki or the Aftermath, the Kaito, whatever that one is. There's a huge flavor of Kaitos, and we're only getting more when it comes to Foundations.
Oh yeah, they've revealed the first three planeswalkers, which are all reprints. I'm sure we can talk about it in a bit because both of us are very excited about one key planeswalker that is a big favorite for both of us. But we are going to be getting a mono blue Kaito, which has to be a brand new one because Kaito's only ever been printed Dimir.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, this will be very interesting to see where that winds up taking the direction of all sorts of decks. But we did wind up having just a passing of the turn here from Willow. She didn't wind up attacking in, representing there's no kind of combat tricks or anything on her side of the battlefield. We do now have a pair of Mutavaults for each player. And now Pluid is kind of thinking, okay, like, I'm in this situation. I really defined removal. I still have this Mockingbird in my hand if I want to try to be able to play the Mockingbird and pump my things up large enough to force like a bad block or a bad trade. Mockingbird would also mean that a Mutavault is a 4/4 being activated.
Ooh, that's scary right there. That's a good one.
And just draw go. All right, we've gotten back to the point where the tempo has slowed down to an icy cold halt here as we see Pluid drawing for turn. I think there's a Fatal Push in hand.
So I think it looks like one of them's a Fatal Push. I think the other one was like a Shoot the Sheriff possibly, or some other 2-mana removal spell. So there's I mean, we have a lot of removal, but when you have a really, really warded up Containment Priest over here, I don't know how much we're going to be able to do. And it looks like we have a
Shacklegeist.
Yeah, so we don't have another Spirit in play to do some tapping down, but this is a big help to be able to hopefully get in some for Willow and try and close this out. Shacklegeist unfortunately can't block creatures without flying, so it's kind of just a 2/2 flyer right now. And Pluid is going in, trying to pay for all the wards, and we have Spell Queller coming right in.
All right, so Spell Queller will gobble up the Fatal Push for now. However, if there's second removal spell in Pluid's hand, like a Shoot the Sheriff, that will now unlock that the Fatal Push, but now Pluid needs an extra land to pay for the ward cost again, because Shoot the Sheriff is most notably 2 mana.
Yes, and it's just there's so much back and forth here. I think the big thing that we're really seeing is the Azorius Spirits deck gets to be the more reactive of the two decks. It always has to be on the Dimir Ninjas deck. Excuse me for being a rogues pilot.
I was gonna say that's your deck, and you did loan Dom your deck the other week, so I can see how it can get very confusing. But this is just flat out Kaito.
Yeah, I think this is also smart too. Possibly Fatal Push was actually a bait. Being able to make sure that we are getting any sort of counter magic or interaction out of Willow's hand to be able to put in this ninja planeswalker. So it comes in, it is cast, but it's still coming in as a creature. So it is a 3/4 right now, and that has hexproof. And we can be making an emblem, we can be getting an additional card to draw, we can tap a creature down with some stun counters. I don't know if the third one's of big interest, but definitely the card draw is pretty nice here.
I mean, if we're able to get to a point where we can get aggressive, then the tapping down seems pretty solid. The Surveil is pretty good as well. And then, I mean, just making an emblem here, this is very powerful because, as we mentioned before, we have Silverfur Master on the battlefield. So now everything else getting +2/+2. We have a 3/3 1-drop. If we Mockingbird our Silverfur, we then wind up having a 5/5 Mutable.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage coming through. And that Containment Priest might not be allowed to live for much longer because it might have to do some blocking duty and unlock a lot of creatures. This is gonna end up getting pretty tight. And honestly, kudos to Pluid for again, baiting out any interaction to be able to sneak in that Kaido to be able to get all of that extra power and toughness we need to be able to try and actually finish off this game.
All right, so we have a Mausoleum Wanderer now. So now, I was going to say, before, we didn't have the ability to tap down the Silver Fermentor and kill Kaito from Willow's side, but now playing an additional spirit means that we're going to be able to use Shacklegeist or whatever else we need to tap it and the Mausoleum Wanderer down. That will tap the Silver Fermentor, and that will mean that we can just attack in with our 4-2 life linker and be able to take out the Kaito with this 6 damage.
Yeah, so nice, clean, easy, but I think that emblem is already probably putting enough pressure here.
It's sort of like a Dimir Ninjas wedding announcement that we were saying that Willow's probably bringing in, so this kind of evens out that playing field.
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, creature decks, they're trying to play just a few creatures. It's whoever's creatures are bigger are going to be the ones that do more here, and yeah. The emblem just hanging out for this entire time. Again, it's an emblem. If Pluid decides to bounce the wedding announcement, then, or, you know, as we've seen in his hand for a lot of this time, he's had the Spell Pierce.
I'm just going to make sure that Pluid knows that they still have that emblem. I say,
Yeah.
okay, there we go. Never mind. Willow just verifying that Pluid does indeed still have an emblem to pump everything up.
Yeah, so still looking pretty good. And Willow, while she is at 20, has no creatures untapped. So we have an opportunity to try and get in a little bit of damage. And if I'm being honest, I don't know how much I want to really play any of at least the cards we know from Pluid's hand. The Mockingbird's kind of awkward here, and I think it's really just... Oh, what is this?
Is this a Nashi? You know this card. I played this card in Standard. Oh, man. Nashi, the Searcher in the Dark. All right. So
Rat Ninja Wizard. What a creature type line.
it is a 2/2 menace, most importantly, and then it has the ability that when it connects with something, or when it connects with your opponent, you mill that many cards, you put any number of legendary or enchantment cards, so that counts your Kaitos, that counts any sort of legendary ninjas you may have in your deck, and if you don't put anything in there, you just get a +1/+1 counter on your Nashi. So this is just another menace ninja that can enable ninjutsu. And then in addition to this, we're going to see that Shoot the Sheriff Pluid's been holding in hand, going after the Shacklegeist to prevent the tapping down effect. But now we do have to be concerned about the fact that there is 3 and potentially more flying damage on Willow's side, as that Mausoleum Wanderer will grow for every spirit we cast.
Yeah, fortunately we do have the 3/3 Thousand Face ninja. That is going to be ensuring that it's pretty hard to attack at the sky. I don't think Willow wants Pluid's Fatal Push to be unlocked. Thousand Face Shadow.
It's a Thousand Face ninja. It's a ninja.
Yeah, it's a ninja with too many faces to count.
This is also interesting because now Willow has to play defense with more than one creature, because this Nashi starts as a 2/2, Emblem and Silver Fermentor. It's a 4/4. It's a 4/4 Menace. That means you got to block with at least 2 creatures. So
yeah, and
things are
that
getting
means
pretty big.
Yeah, that means that means the only way that you're not going to lose both your creatures is by blocking with both the Spell Queller and the Containment Priest, and those are the creatures holding on to a lot of Pluid stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a Fatal Push under there. I mean, you can Fatal Push, sacrifice your Mausoleum Wanderer, counter it unless you pay 1, I guess. But I mean, we're still talking about there's this Mutavault on Pluid's side as well. There's a Mockingbird in hand. Things could have just completely flipped by just Willow having a series of poor draws.
Yep.
Oh, Portable Hole is pretty good, though.
Yeah, Portable Hole can take out actually any of these ninjas because they're all 2 or less mana value. Portable Hole being a really powerful new card or not new card, but a very powerful new tech card that has been coming in given just the prevalence of the Rakdos aggro deck, because it just handles Heartfire Hero so easily. And yeah, we are getting an attack in here, and oh boy, 5 for Pluid left. That's a bit rough.
It's a little scary. Pluid with a bunch of open mana. It looks like a second Shoot the Sheriff as well. Willow with 2-3 cards in hand. Might be just looking to go all in on removing this Containment Priest here and just getting back a fat stack of creatures.
Yeah, and that could be the swing we need, because it's also going to take out all of that lifelink that we have.
Here we go, tapping 6, really considering it. We could also shoot the Sheriff the Spell Queller, but no, Pluid's just gonna pass. Didn't do anything with 6 open mana.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I definitely think we want to, if we're gonna shoot anything, it should be the Spell Queller, because we do get the free cast on the Fatal Push, and the Fatal Push can always kill the Containment Priest. But we are getting looks like a 1/1 Mockingbird.
I say, are we gonna Mockingbird the Mausoleum Wanderer? That'll give the Mockingbird the ability to sacrifice to counter unless Willow pays 1. But it's also just a flying blocker, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think that's what we're really going for, because right now we are completely clear in the skies unless the spell resolves for Pluid. Looks like it actually has resolved, because we are coming in as a copy of something. And yeah, we are really keeping an eye on that Mausoleum Wanderer. Interestingly enough, even though there's no spell on the stack, the Spell Queller is just a bigger body. It might not be terrible to copy as well. But, of course, it is more mana to get that bigger body.
Yeah, exactly. And then at that point, you're worried about the No More Lies. You're worried about the Geistlight Snare not having the mana to kind of pay for that one.
But we do have the 3 extra mana to be able to pay for all of those soft counters. But yeah.
There you go. Just a passing of the turn, a swing in for 3. Looks like we're going to chump block?
Interesting. Are we chumping or trading? Looks like we are attempting to trade here.
Yeah, as I say, I guess we're worried about potentially like Spectral Sailor or something like that, but this is just going to be a quick little trade of 1/1 flyers. Puts Pluid down to 3, and then passing of the turn, still not pulling the trigger on that Shoot the Sheriff.
Oh boy, and that's a land off the top. So we're really relying on some removal to hopefully get us out of this hole. I didn't see how many cards Willow has in hand, but
I think it's still 3.
Yeah, so, and yeah, Pluid's really racking his brain over there trying to figure out, is it worth it to just try and go for it? I mean, at this point, if Willow has the counter, she has the counter. I need to try and not be in this hole. Like, I should probably try and get rid of both these creatures by killing the Spell Queller and then free casting the Fatal Push on the Containment Priest. Like, that's your out. If we have the counter, we have the counter, and we're dead.
I mean, my name's Optimus Tom. I would have rolled out on that Shoot the Sheriff like 2 or 3 turns ago already. I am much less patient of a player.
Yeah.
And it looks like Pluid here just really considering their options. I mean, at this point, if you have the Shoot the Sheriff, you have the ability to pay extra ward cost if you need to for certain things. And it looks like Pluid just going to pass the turn here. No attacks, no pulling the trigger, no nothing. I'm wondering if we're going to see Shoot the Sheriff, target the Spell Queller, get back the Fatal Push, and just pay the 4 ward and pray.
Yeah, and it looks like
we have to do it now, though.
Yeah, with the Mausoleum Wanderer on the stack, we're not in the best shape here. It looks like we are just swinging in with the Spell Queller, currently a 2/3, and are we finally going to react? All right.
Oh, no.
Looks like we are reacting a bit late here. However, I can also see, because of how everything's working out, we are probably then just going to use the Fatal Push on the Mausoleum Wanderer and kind of just be okay with the... Actually, that is probably best here. Probably try and get rid of the Mausoleum Wanderer and just target it, because we can handle the ground creature no problem. We have 2 creatures on the ground.
I think there's also a Geistlight Snare in Willow's hand, so Willow maybe just letting this one resolve and then tapping Pluid out and just... Well, at this point, tapping Pluid out could also just sack the Mausoleum Wanderer, but don't even have to here.
Yep, it looks like we are going to be countering the Fatal Push on the Containment Priest, so we do have at least a 1/1 flyer, 3-turn clock. Could get bigger if we play some additional spirits, but we are draining a lot of Willow's resources, actually, so I guess she's now down to 2 cards.
2 cards in hand, 3 cards in hand for Pluid, and it looks like that is going to be potentially time in the round. Since this is going to be our featured matchup, the players may have a couple additional minutes or seconds on the clock there, but Pluid kind of up against the ropes here. I mean, we do wind up having 2 Lord effects, the Emblem and the Silver Fur Mentor on the battlefield. We have Nashi for 4, Silver Fur for 3, and Mutable for 4 altogether.
Yeah. But it looks like we do have a Supreme Phantom in, and that's just going to be 3 damage coming across with the +1/+1, and then the additional +1/+1 from a Spirit entering. Did we...
Oh, no, because this was still the turn where we had the Fatal Push. It got counterspelled, so there's only one Spirit that entered.
Gotcha. Okay.
But now, oh, there's nothing else in Fluid's hand. Just a pair of Cryptic Coats, a Kaito, and a Spell Pierce. That's going to be it. That's going to be Willow and the Azorius Spirit side being the superior tempo style deck and coasting the tempo into victory.